Malolele, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuki. Coming up, Pacific governments issue travel advisories in the wake of US-Israeli strikes on Iran. Also,
I loved it so much.
I think I fell in love with my culture again.
the Fijian Flying Circus wows the crowd in Hamilton, and in Super Rugby, the Drua get their first win of the season in Lautoka. Pacific governments are advising their people in the Middle East to stay sheltered and make their presence known. This comes after US and Israeli airstrikes on Iran kicked off a conflict over the weekend. Koroi Hawkins has more.
The conflict has grounded flights to and from Israel and many other Middle Eastern nations, with Iranian airspace completely cleared. Pacific nations are asking for their nationals to register their name and contact details with their closest embassies. Pacific governments have yet to report any incidents of a citizen or national being directly impacted. The New Zealand government has condemned Iranian retaliatory strikes, but has stopped short of condemning the US or Israel. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon told RNZ's Morning Report that his position mirrors that of Australia and Canada.
We think the Iranian regime is evil. We think it's been repressing its own people. We think it's been arming proxies and terrorist organisations. And we understand fully why the Americans and the Israelis have actually undertaken the independent action that they've taken. My position isn't that different from the Australian position or the Canadian position.
But former Prime Minister Helen Clark criticised the response, calling for a stern condemnation.
What was wrong with it was that it didn't call out the illegal strike against Iran in the middle of diplomatic negotiations, which were going quite well, and further talks were scheduled.
Meanwhile, calls are growing to condemn the US and Israel for instigating the conflict. Israeli officials have told international media that the attacks were preemptive, suggesting that Iran could have made the first move. International Relations Professor Robert Patman says this is highly unlikely.
The United States was negotiating with Iran just a few days before the attack and had planned further meetings. We now know that the United States and Israel had agreed, according to an Israeli defense spokesperson quoted in Reuters, had actually agreed this attack some time ago.
At the time of this report, no Pacific governments had made their positions on the conflict known.
I'm now joined by Tongan national and school teacher Kim Halavatau, who lives in Abu Dhabi. Malolele, Kim, how are you doing? Are you safe?
Yeah, we're safe at the moment. It's been crazy times lately, especially in the last 2 days. But at the moment, currently, we haven't heard any explosions or missiles going over the head. So it's been quiet right now, but quite uncertain.
Tell me about the moment when you heard the airstrikes. I understand you were quite close to the area that was affected. Could you talk me through about that day?
Yeah. So my wife was actually taking my son Christopher to his catechism class, and it was about 1 p.m. I can recall hearing the first explosions, and went out to my balcony because we're about on the 8th floor in our apartment, so we can kind of overlook the city. And hearing the loud explosions quite daunting and frightening. So kind of like, okay, maybe they're testing because we got like an army base just close we can oversee. They were launching like missiles from that location. So we're like, they've never tested these before. Usually we see the Black Hawks flying over. They're usually doing military drills, but this time was for real. So so just a little bit of research when I looked up that I found out that America had gone into to war. They're striking Iran. So Iran did what they promised, which was to attack all the US military bases in the Middle East. So
what was going through your mind when you heard the explosions and the missiles, all of that? What was going through your head?
Well, it's new. You kind of hear all that stuff on the news, and you never think, that could be something that you could witness or be there. But definitely, through my head was like, this is scary, seeing all the missiles in the sky, and seeing all the explosions. And obviously all the social platforms are going crazy because everyone's like, we're all pretty well connected here as expats, and people just like, oh, the airport has been hit and whatnot. So the first thing that comes through my mind was like, well, this is something that you usually hear on like the Gaza Strip. So it kind of like a reality is in terms of like, well, this is probably something that we're gonna get used to in the next couple of days.
Did you receive any, was of those text alerts, and did you have to go into
Yeah.
any bunkers or shelters?
No. One of the things we're really lucky here is that the UAE government is so awesome. They're like so responsive, and they're really like the technology they have here is amazing. Like they have their alerts, and they're really good in terms of letting people know what's happening. So yeah, everyone got the alert to like stay in shelter. There's missiles going overhead. To don't panic, but make sure that you are not obviously out in public, where debris could be falling. So yeah, the government were pretty quick to jump on that. But as you know, with all the social media and everyone going pretty crazy, there's always some misleading information. So you have to try to be really careful what you try to take in, because it can cause a lot of fear and chaos that not
Yeah.
necessarily happening.
With all the panic happening online, were you able to contact your family and let them know that you were safe?
Yeah. One of the first things that, being an expat life is like making sure that if something happens that you tell your family straight away. So jumping onto those platforms and just really letting them know straight away. They're like, hey, I'm all good, we're all right. Because obviously the perception being living here in the Middle East, even though Abu Dhabi is UAE is so safe, I think people have seen that it's been one of the safest countries in the last 5 years. People still have that misconception that it's like a very dangerous country, and yeah, no, I get it, and this could never, like, it's the safest country to be in. And a good example is like our Air Force defense system is like, we have a collection of like maybe the top 6 Air Force systems, and we'll put them all together in the UAE. So they've been able to to connect and destroy all the missiles that have come in. So it's been pretty good. But yeah, noisy and scary, but at the same time, the reassurance that the Air Force are really protecting us and doing all they can, through the clock as well. So it's been amazing.
Has that made you reconsider, coming back home or leaving Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, that's always a question that I get from a lot of my friends, especially families. Like, that you always get the odd, maybe it's time to come back home.
Mm.
But, the way I see it is like, there's always going to be danger anywhere, in everywhere. Whether it's back home in New Zealand, in Tonga, there's always some kind of danger. And I don't want to live my life, based on other people's terms, in terms of like, that I'm going to fear something. I think I'm quite a religious, quite a religious family. So, we all say it in God's time. So, and I guess, if the time comes to go back home for safety, oh, most definitely. I think one of the blessings we have here is all the embassies are really good. Obviously we're connected with the New Zealand embassy, but we know our Tongan ambassador really well. So it's like always in communication with the embassies, and they always send their messages out, whether it's, God forbid, an evacuation, but, they've got those plans in place if those things need to happen. So yeah, it does run through our minds, but, right now, like, the UAE is just beautiful to be in right now. So.
And what about the other Pacific Islanders within Abu Dhabi? What do they make of the situation? Because, like, if you see online, a lot of them are quite vocal about what's happening in Israel and Palestine. Do they have an opinion of, those sort of politics?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like, see, my wife is Tongan as well. Like, she's one of those people who, like, politics is something that she's kind of like, not really interested in. But myself, I've always been interested in politics, and even more now that we're in a place like, the UAE, because because of, like, they're not quite in like someone's corner. They were kind of like shaking hands with everyone, with a friendly kind of country that's kind of like, helping everyone out. But obviously Iran has identified us as being a threat, because we do have US military base here. And just the whole Middle East, the war in the Middle East, we'll be quite lucky, because the UAE hasn't been their stance on the Middle East war has been kind of like withheld. So we haven't been really affected by that. But seeing that, and it's very close, to home, because obviously we're in the Middle East, it is quite a little bit daunting that it is very close to like where we live, and with, for example, Iran being in conflict with a lot of the Middle East countries, like we're the closest like target, or just over across the Arabian Lake. So yeah, it is scary, but at the same time, just keeping informed and knowing what's going on, I think gives you a peace of mind that that we can see the maneuvers that are happening around the world as well. So.
Thank you so much, Kim, for jumping on. But that's the end of our tala noa. Is there anything else you want to share?
Yeah, just I'll probably just big shout out to the UAE government. Like, man, they've been so awesome. But also to the men and women who have stayed up like throughout the night while we've tried to sleep while the explosions are going overhead. Just the military people. Just take my hats off them, being able to keep us safe and ensuring that our safety here. Just big shout out to the UAE government. Like one of the awesome things that I just found out recently, just yesterday, that the UAE government sent out a direct to all the hotels to keep the people in the hotel, extend their stays, and they'll pay for the bill. So just that kind of mindset kind of gives me peace of mind that I'm in like a really safe place, and people who want to take care of us. So.
The Fijian Flying Circus wrapped up their New Zealand tour by headlining the Hamilton Arts Festival this weekend. The company is hailing the trip a success with sold-out theatres in Wellington and packed open lawns in Hamilton. Tiana Hexton was there.
Pole Dance Company presents to you the Fijian Flying Circus!
Backflipping their way across the stage, testing the limits of balance on stilts and tightrope, swinging from silks and their own hair, the Fijian Flying Circus left the crowd in awe. Their showcase blends indigenous storytelling rooted in myths, legends and folklore with a spectacle of contemporary circus. Hamilton's Fijian community turned up in force, cheering on their own and watching their culture be shared in a new way.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
It's revolutionary, it's extraordinary, it's amazing.
First circus
Never
ever.
once seen in my life before.
I love the blend of Fijian, like Itoke, like the costumes with modern.
With contemporary dance. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it so much.
I think I fell in love with my culture again.
It was good to see the Fijian people coming from the islands and representing our culture.
I've watched international people come in and, participate in circus like this. And this is the first time ever a Fijian performing their thing. It's so cool.
The show's lead performers, Stuart Tuidela and Evangeline Kumar, says incorporating their culture on stage is very important. When the circus was created 3 years ago, their target audience was school children. Stuart Tuidela says they found a new way to share traditional stories.
In the show, the different scenes, we kind of depict some of the myths and legends from Fiji.
From Fiji, yes.
So we pick those out and then we try to recreate it show-wise. We have giants, and then you have birds, and then you have the extinct bats in Fiji.
Evangeline Kumar says they wanted to make their culture more attractive to the next generation.
So we made sure to give it to the kids and make sure to portray the story, tell them in a fun, exciting way. Like, it's not like a normal, traditional circus. It is a storytelling kind of circus. You will experience laughter, humor. Some of you might probably cry as well.
Both Tuidela and Kumar started off with a circus parent company, Vo Dance. A visit from Cuban circus trainers led to the discovery of the dance's potential as circus acts. After 6 months of vigorous training, honing in on which dancers should do which acts, the Fijian Flying Circus was born. Evangeline Kumar never thought she would one day be an aerialist, dancing high above the stage while suspended by her own hair.
I think we got too comfortable being a dancer, being close to the ground. When we started circus, we were 5 feet up in the air. We were like, oh my gosh, okay. So I play the principal role of Loma. I also am a hair hang artist and a tightrope walker.
Stuart Tuidela says his career pathway is a far cry from what his family expected, but being able to turn his passion for the arts into his full-time job is a dream come true.
Growing up in a family of engineers and doctors, and so they would expect you to follow their path, but taking a different path is something new for us. I love dancing. Wherever I go, if there's music, just love to groove. Headphones on my head all the time, and dancing was never a big thing in Fiji, especially the arts. Not knowing it was going to be my full-time career, and it's been great so far.
He says touring New Zealand with sold-out shows has been a huge achievement for the team. They have plans to travel to New Caledonia and Australia this year to continue to share the magic and wonder of the Fijian Flying Circus.
The Fijian Drua finally got the win that has eluded them in the first 2 rounds of the Super Rugby Pacific competition. But for Moana Pacifica, it was not the ending they had hoped for when they lost their round 3 encounter at the Navigation home in Pukekohe on Friday night. With me is our senior sports journalist, Eliasa Tora. Bula Ili, Drua stopped the Hurricanes in Lautoka for the first time. How did that come about?
Bula vinaka, malo tau lava, talofa lava from wet and windy Wellington. It's it was a game that the Drua needed to win to boost morale in camp and also bring back fans. They were able to beat the Hurricanes 25-20 in a very tightly contested game. The rain that enveloped Lautoka and most of the parts of the Western Division of Fiji from Friday night into Saturday morning basically made Churchill Park a tough pitch to play on. Slippery conditions, very wet, very heavy, and that was seen in the game. The teams basically, reverted to playing high balls. The kicking game played a major part of how things rolled out in the first and the second half. But the Drua, credit to them, they were able to hold on. They held on to the Hurricanes. They came from behind twice to draw level and then managed to score the winning try through, Wellington base Etonia Wanga, who lives in Wainuamata, scoring that winning try. And that also gave the Drua their first win after 3 matches in the Super Rugby Pacific competition so far.
Hard takes though for Moana Pacifica on Friday night. What happened in that game?
Well, Moana Pacifica, just couldn't. They just couldn't get into the game. They had the first 10 minutes. They were able to score a try. Captain Miracle Failangi said, the Western force just basically shut them out, and they closed their game, and they didn't allow Moana Pacifica to get into their rhythm. Failangi said it was tough for them. They just couldn't get into any go forward consistently. They came back later in the game and scored 2 tries in the within the last 7 minutes. But it was too little too late. Head coach Whalonga Manga said, the Australian Western Force side, they just played the game that shut Moana Pacifica out. And that was basically it. Moana was alive in the first 10 minutes. They came back strong in the last 10. They were lost in the middle 40 minutes. And Western Force took that opportunity in the second half and managed to pile up their points and eventually won in the end and recording also their first win, 35-19 win, also their first win in the competition this year.
What are some takeaways the teams would have learned from their matches?
Well, both coaches, Glenn Jackson and Whalonga Manga, said consistency is very important, and staying in the game from the opening whistle and continuing until the end. The game, one of the things that both mention is the game isn't over. until the final whistle. And they came back. Both teams came back strongly in the end. Drua managed to get that win. Moana unfortunately couldn't. Consistency is a critical area that they need to look at. They need to start well, play well throughout, and then finish strongly. One of the things that also stood out for Moana Pacifica was in the middle of the first half and the second, there seemed to be nobody who was talking and trying to get them to keep moving, and it was tough. Heads down. The body language showed that they were, mentally not up to it at this stage. But when the replacements came on, they managed to get back to that. And very important, they just need to keep going back to the basics.
Tough luck for Moana, but congratulations to the Drua. Now, there are lots of soccer action too at the weekend. Ili, can you give us an update on that?
Yes, certainly. The OFC FIFA Women's World Cup, the OFC qualifier kicked off in Honiara and in Ba in Fiji. Honiara in the Solomons and in Ba in Fiji. American Samoa caused the biggest upset in round one. They defeated OFC Women's Nations Cup holders Solomon Islands 1-0 in a thrilling game. New Zealand proved too strong for Samoa in their match, winning 8-0 in the end. In Ba, Papua New Guinea and host Fiji managed wins on the first day. PNG defeated Vanuatu 5-0, and Fiji also defeated New Caledonia 5-0 by the same margin. But New Caledonia, earlier on today, on Monday, they managed to come back and win their second game against Vanuatu, winning 2-1 in that match. In the Pro League was also, the OFC Pro League was also happening in Melbourne, and Auckland FC continued their lead. They won 1-0 over Tahiti United, and basically continue as the team to beat from now on. And the Solomon Kings defeated Fiji's Mbula FC 2-0 in that game. Very interesting. Also that PNG Hekari United were also able to record their first win over the weekend when they defeated Vanuatu United 3-1. That wrapped up round 3 of the OFC Pro League, but there are some postponed games that were postponed in Auckland and in Melbourne because of the weather conditions, and this will be played over the next few days.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. For myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.